Ladies and gentlemen, I will not take much of your time except for saying Bitcoin just had a massively, extremely beautiful breakout. This is exactly following the plan we've been saying for a long while. We just keep opening more long positions around every single dip that we get, and look at how beautiful this pump has been. Now, I just want to quickly say that the most likely course of action from here on forward in the near future is for the price to break back down to these previous high tops, because obviously a lot of the price action here is because of the FOMO with regards to BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF seeding, $10 million worth that's happening tomorrow, and of course the whole approval over the next week or so. There's still, however, a chance that those ETFs get denied. In case of that, we expect some massive dips to happen. But right now, the strategy is still as follows. I'm thinking, and you might call me crazy for this, but I'm thinking of just buying the dip back here at $44,000 and a bit, hoping for yet another bounce, hopefully this time all the way towards 47. I, however, want you guys to know that our prediction and target has actually been hit. However, just not on the chart you might be looking at Bitcoin at. This chart right here is the Bitcoin CME futures, and on there, we actually did achieve a price of $47.1-ish thousand just last night before falling back down. And the reason I keep signifying that level is obviously because of Bitcoin's history. This is a massive psychological barrier, as a lot of the Bitcoin supply has been traded around those levels. 38, 47, 57,000. We stated before that our strategy is buy all the way up to that level and then wait for a decisive moment. The reason I am slightly skeptical of this breakout is because of the fact that it's around specific news events. And so there's a lot of manipulation in the charts. And yes, we broke through some of these previous resistances, which is nice, but we're still going to have to see a bounce off of about $44,000, or obviously consolidate from here on forward and go sideways up until right around, let's say, January 9th, somewhere like that. As we do know that those two events, the Bitcoin spot ETF is coming up over the next few days, and the halving, which is coming up, a little bit afterwards, are going to be so extremely important. But I want you guys to understand the reason I'm skeptical is partially because only on the CME do we get to 47. And I really was highly convinced that even on spot and everywhere, we get to that level. Since we failed to get there right now, and if the next push before breaking down does not hit it, I'm really putting all of this on the manipulation tab. And in that sense, then I'm starting to think more along the lines of, can we get enough excitement in right now already to not have a massive breakdown if ETFs were to be denied? I mean, a lot is happening right now. As I said, those seedings of the investment happening tomorrow from BlackRock, and a couple hours ago, Grayscale just filed another amendment to their Bitcoin ETF application. And together combined with what we read before, when Mike Novogratz himself also said, this is basically the last week, as we're going to get this approval before January 10th. I believe a lot of the price action we're seeing right now is in anticipation of all this. But because of all that hype, I get more and more afraid, and I've said this on DustyBC, of some sort of breakdown, as the S&P is just failing to break through its highs. Right now, it fell back down yet again, still continuing on with the uptrend. So it's not, quote unquote, bad just quite yet, depending on if we take out this level. But the S&P failing to take out its all-time high is just not pushing us towards our extremely bullish S&P all-time high, Bitcoin continuing with an all-time high type of scenario we talked about, I think, a week or two ago. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, most indicators are still flashing so extremely bullish that I just cannot stop my long positions. I can only keep opening them, but I am more and more wary of some sort of breakdown that could be annoying in the extremely short term. Then again, Bitcoin's dominance is picking back up, which is interesting. Adding to a lot of the negativity, though, I'd say is the ever so increasing funding rates. They have gone up by significant shots in a very, very short amount of time, obviously, as the Bitcoin prices shot up a lot. And matter of fact, we just broke through a 16-month high or so for the Bitcoin price. And I think maybe from that perspective, I expected prices to just go up a little bit quicker even, kind of like we saw all the way back here in October of last year. And the fact that we didn't might have just caused some skepticism maybe. Then again, it's nitty-picky because at the end of the day, our prediction of $47,000 per Bitcoin was reached exactly, so beautifully so, on the CME futures for Bitcoin. You can see where it hit $47,000 right there and then came back down. I'm just so confused as to why it didn't happen on spot. Then again, the strategy remains the same. All we do is buy You just look for the right buying opportunities. Obviously, we are prepared for some major moves around the next few days, as there's a lot of buy the rumor, sell the news type of activity. A lot of people are trying to get in their Bitcoin slightly before the event. A lot of people are speculating on the event itself. That's why a lot of the moves we're seeing right now, we will probably are able to forget about over the next week or two, as it can all be invalidated as just pure speculation. But again, about all that we will see. I don't want to spend too much of your time. Just say, hey, we had a nice juicy little pump. People have been making videos. Why are we pumping? Here's why we're pumping. Anticipation of the events over the next few days. BlackRock buying $10 million worth of Bitcoin tomorrow, right? That is a pretty big deal. Again, if you want to see, the trust purchased Bitcoin at the price of 𝗂 per Bitcoin with the proceeds of the seed creation basket on January 3rd, 2024. This is basically a little contract of sorts that was leaked a while back. $10 million is not much. How much is that? 200 Bitcoin or something? But in theory, it's the idea that counts. I'm seeing people talk about Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust also pumping massively right now. I'm telling you, we're in a really interesting spot, extremely volatile. And luckily, like I said yesterday, the only thing we're doing is keeping long positions open. I'm not looking for any shorts. And the only thing somebody might tell me is, hey, be more careful around January 9th as we get the anticipation of the event the day afterwards. And we can see some dumps around that level. Or right now in a people have been buying the rumor for the last couple of months, and some massive institutions are starting to sell off in anticipation of the January 10th event, as all of a sudden, we might not get that approval. It's at the end of the day possible. And that's why I'm expecting some volatility, and that's why I'm warning people right now. That the closer we get to that date, the more scary things are going to get. And our strategy that we've had for the last, 3 weeks of just buy every dip religiously, that made people crazy amounts of money. If you didn't make crazy amounts of money the last couple of weeks, have you been living under a freaking rock? We made hundreds of % on every coin we bought. And I've been documenting everything here. We literally, I've explained so clearly when to buy Bitcoin. Little side note, by the way, if you're skeptical, link down below to buy, but you can claim yourself a free $500 trade on Bitcoin, Solana, Bonk, whatever. Just check the link down below. But our strategy that's remained for a while will still work for the medium term. Just this week, it might be a little bit iffy as we can see that pullback we've been dreading for a while. Again, still though, in my own opinion, the worst case scenario is going to be a pullback to where this whole run started. So roughly $33,000. And I still don't anticipate it's going to be such a massive crash all the way towards those levels. I'm just saying that is the worst case, in my opinion, in case of a BlackRock Bitcoin ETF spot denial of sorts, and it will most likely quickly bounce back from there. So I'm still looking to just open long positions, even if we do fall back down with just one short potential in the middle. We talked about that before. Then again, we've probably got a couple of days to talk about this. This is just in case of a Bitcoin spot ETF denial, which could happen tomorrow, could happen the day after. I'm telling you right now to be a little bit careful with that and potentially refrain from too crazy of a leverage percentage in this little while. But obviously that's the risk you're taking, because an ETF approval can make crypto prices spike significantly in a very short amount of time. And for that reason, you can actually play around with some conditional orders, meaning if X amount of price has been reached, then open the position, which is basically slightly different than a limit order. A limit order obviously has a price roof, a limit that you're able to buy it at, which can be filled immediately if you put a very high limit. If you put a limit of $50,000 and the price is $45,000, it will obviously get bought straight away. If you put a conditional order at $51,000, for example, it'll only start buying once you hit $51,000, which might be nice in case you want to catch a massive pump and continue the pump from there on forward. Obviously, you got to be careful that you don't get one crazy wick, which is how some people get liquidated, obviously. Anyway, think about that, what I've just said. Crazy massive pumps, most likely in anticipation of what's happening tomorrow. Be more wary, because the closer we get to this date, the more risky things get. The strategy is still the same, and we're still working on the bots. Things are coming soon, though. Hopefully, you guys are watching every single day, because we're printing money. This is just beautiful. Last night, I tell you guys of the massive breakout, and the breakout happens like clockwork.